This round we'll be starting with the Leshi, but this is a day turn, so we have to remove 2 experience from each monster. And this time we were prepared. The Succubus has 2, the Leshi has 4, so he'll have 2 remaining. The Revenant has 2, the Glystig has 4, so no wounds this time. Before we roll the Leshi's dice, let's see where we're at here. We have the Revenant and the Succubus in the castle heart. The Leshi's right here with a cursed hunter in the same room. We have 6 peasants here, 6 peasants up here. We do have a peasant in the corridor outside, and then the Glystig is up in that corridor. And we also have the troll too that we're going to have to deal with. The Leshi has no reserve dice. Can't have any because that's silence. So he will roll all 6. And we're going to have a lot of villagers activating. We have 3 of those, a defense, a ranged, and a melee. We are in a room here with a cursed hunter, so we will use our melee attack to take that hunter out, dropping the morale down to 39. You could activate villagers, and they would activate from here because it is 4 away, and this zone is 3 away. So I'll go ahead and activate all 3 of my villager activations, move 3 peasants into the corridor, and now I have a choice. I have a ranged attack symbol left. I could purchase a fire trap and place it here in this small room, but we have the troll there, and you can only attack the troll with melee or ranged attacks. Nothing else affects them, traps do not. And there's nobody in the room right now, so I wouldn't take any damage even if he did activate and attack monsters again, but I might have a chance of pulling him away from the heart and bringing him this way. Or I could advance him right into the castle heart. Let's give it a shot anyway. I'll go ahead and use my ranged attack, shoot it at the troll. The troll will activate, and we got the shield symbol, which means all monsters and up to 5 villagers in the zone are stunned. There's no one there. Then we flip the first player coin. Heads moves 1 zone toward the castle heart. Tails moves 1 zone towards the closest spawn point. Well, we're not going to flip a coin, so we'll go ahead and roll a die. And 1, 2, or 3 will be towards the castle heart, and anything higher towards a spawn point. Now it's going to move away from the castle heart. The closest spawn point is right there, so it will move back into this room. And now the Leshi has 1 die left, the defense die, and I'm going to use it for movement and get out of that room in case the troll activates and does damage or stuns monsters. And that'll end the Leshi's turn. We'll now go to the Revenant, who's here in the castle heart. And the Revenant has a ranged attack in reserve. We'll keep it there, so we'll take 1 of those dice away. 1 activation, 2 more ranged, and then a melee and a magic. We'll go ahead and use his villager activation on the day die to move another peasant forward. Now we have 2 ranged, 1 melee, and 1 magic. Before I do anything else here in the castle heart, I will use my 1 magic symbol to gain a health back and take that solitary wound off of the Revenant. I'll use 1 of my ranged attacks to fire and take care of that peasant, lowering the morale to 38. We still have 1 melee and 1 ranged, and we do have a ranged in reserve also. So maybe I should move and try and activate the troll again. I'll use my melee die for movement to move into the corridor with the Leshi and then fire a ranged attack at the troll. We spent the 1 to move. Now we'll fire at the troll, activating the troll again. And we're hoping for anything but a melee or ranged symbol. It's the retaliate, which means all monsters and up to 5 villagers are stunned. There's none in the zone, So now we have to roll again to see if it moves back towards the castle heart or away towards the spawn point. 1, 2 into the castle heart. Nice. Once again, it moves towards the spawn point. The troll will back up into this corridor. Let's make room for it. Those peasants are probably not too thrilled about the current situation. And the Revenant still has one ranged attack in the reserve, and we will leave it there, ending its turn and moving on to the Glystig, who's up here in this corridor. The Glystig doesn't have any dice in reserve. We're going to get magic, a blank activation, ranged, retaliate, and melee. The Glystig is about to use her power, lured to their doom, because it has a range of 1 to 2. We will activate it with the melee symbol. Move all peasants in target zone 1 zone towards you and slay half of all peasants moved. Rounded down. This group of peasants is only 2 zones away, so they're within range. I will move all of them 1 zone towards me and then slay half. Well, there's 6 there, so that's going to take out 3 of them. Dropping the morale by 3 more, taking us down to 35, triggering our next village morale event. We will now be spawning on tier 1 for the rest of the playthrough, but we'll be spawning a lot because the yellow and blue are already active, and now this red and that red are also active, so we'll be drawing 4 spawn cards each time. Again, those will all be at +1. And I have an idea we might start seeing some town heroes when we're drawing that many cards. The Glystig still has 2 magic, a ranged, and a retaliate available. I don't want to use my ranged attack here because I have no one in an adjacent zone. I'm going to save that because in this room right behind me has a spawn point. So I'm going to reserve that ranged attack. And just in case, we're going to place retaliate in the defensive slot. And there's not really anything I can do with these 2 magic symbols. None of her powers call for that, and we're too far from the castle heart to use it. So we'll just get rid of those and move on to the Succubus. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm not going to reserve this ranged attack. I'm going to use the die instead of reserving it in order to purchase the fire trap, because I'm in a corridor, so I can place it there. And here we have the fire trap that will go in that corridor. And we'll place it here, ready to deal with any type of villager. And if they trigger it, it will do 3 damage and town heroes will suffer burn. And now we're ready to move on to the Succubus. She also has nothing in reserve. We're going to get 3 activations. Then we have a retaliation, ranged, and magic. We'll activate our 3 villagers, and 2 of them are going to come from here for sure. And then the next one's probably going to come from there because this is 2 away and this is still 3 away. First, we have to squeeze everybody in, and as long as 50% or more of the bases are on there, we're good. In this case, they fit. We could have even backed the troll up a tiny bit. And then 1 left will activate from here and move into the chapel. We still have a retaliate, ranged, and magic. We're in the castle heart, so we'll use our magic symbol and remove 1 damage, leaving us with a ranged and a retaliation. I'm going to use my retaliation symbol to activate the mimic chest. Place it in the castle heart because it can go in small or large rooms, and it only affects town heroes. It'll cause 3 damage and stun the heroes. I'm going to do this just in case. I think we might have some coming, and they move pretty quick. Some of them can move 2 or 3 zones at a time and get to the castle heart. So I want to have something there prepared to meet them when they show up. Here he is. Well, I don't know if it's a he, but here it is, the mimic chest. It's going to go in the castle heart and wait for a town hero. It can be activated by anybody, but I'm hoping to keep other villagers out so it's ready for the town hero. And in case somebody gets close, we'll reserve that final ranged attack. That is it for our monsters. We'll now advance the village event. 4 more, passing 14, going to 16. The next event will occur at 18. And we'll see what we have. Beset on all sides. Spawn 2 peasants at every spawn point. 2 peasants at every spawn point. So here we have the yellow spawn. Over here we have the blue spawn. And we also have the red spawn point there. And the other red spawn point right there. Now I know I've had to spawn peasants and hunters from village events earlier in the game, and I did not add the +1 to them. I don't know if it should apply to the village event cards or if it just applies to the spawn at the end of the villager phase. Since I do not know the answer, and I failed to add the +1 on other village events that occurred earlier in this playthrough, I'll stick with what I've been doing and not adding the +1 on the village event cards, but continue on the spawns at the end of the villager phase. Again, I don't know if that's correct or not, but I think staying consistent is important now, and if we find out otherwise, I'll go ahead and pose the question and see if I can get an answer on BGG. Now we start with the zones closest to the heart. These are the 2 closest, and then we have 1 there and 1 there. It would be the next furthest out. They all have peasants in them who will activate and attack. Nothing to attack in either zone, and then they'll move. So these 3 would move into this corridor. This one would move into that corridor. And now we go 3 away. That would include this zone. And 3 away would be the zone with the troll in it. These villagers have nothing to attack, so they will move forward into the graveyard. Villagers do not attack the troll, so the 5 peasants that are here will move into the chapel. Next we have zones that are 4 away, which is up here and right there. Again, all these zones contain peasants, so we'll activate them and they'll move into the corridor with the troll. And then these 2 peasants will move into the corridor with the Glystig and the fire trap. Now all of the villagers have attacked and moved, which means we now activate the troll. And that is a ranged attack symbol. 3 damage to each monster in the zone. There are none. And then he's going to move 1 towards the castle heart. The troll will turn around and move along with those villagers into the chapel. Now traps will trigger. There are villagers in this corridor with the fire trap. And the fire trap affects all villager types, does 3 damage. And we don't need to worry about the town heroes because there are none here yet. That trap will burn these 2 peasants, lowering the morale 2 more, down to 33. And we can remove these since there are no more events to keep track of. Now we need to spawn villagers. We'll start with our yellow. And again, we're on tier 1 now. And it's going to be peasants. 4 of them +1 for 5. That group of 5 has arrived. We'll go over here to the blue spawn point. And we're going to get our first town hero. Even if it said no town hero, in this scenario, all town hero cards spawn a town hero. And actually we're going to see 2 of them because of the +1 rule. Our first town hero arriving is the Portal Mage. 4 health, 2 movement, 2 damage with an attack, range of 0 to 1. The Portal Mage cannot be stunned, burned, or have her movement affected in any way. And she's of the Arcane class. Here she is, coming out of her portal. And she's spawning down here. And because of the +1 rule, she will be joined by the Gravedigger. 4 health, 1 movement, 2 damage, can only attack in his zone. The Gravedigger may only be dealt 1 damage per round. Oof, that's tough. And he's of the Undead class. And here's our Gravedigger. He's got his coffin on his back, shovel, And he will spawn down here also. Only 1 damage per round. And a round is the entire turn through where all monsters go and all the villagers go. So it's going to take a minimum of 4 rounds to take him out. Wow, that is tough. That's probably why he can only move 1 and only do 2 damage. We're not done yet. Let's go ahead and spawn in the same location with the red. We're going to see 5 more peasants. Our 2 heroes are joined by 5 peasants, and finally up here in this large room we have our last spawn point. And we're going to see more peasants, this time 3 plus 1 for 4. Now the castle is quite populated with peasants. We spawned our 4 there. We are almost out of peasant minis. There's only 3 remaining. If we ever have to spawn something and we're out of miniatures, then for each one that is supposed to spawn, 1 will be activated of the same type as if we rolled a villager activation symbol. We will now remove expired tokens, so that trap is no longer active because it was triggered. The mimic will stay in play until it's triggered. The Glystig had a retaliation symbol in defense, that is removed. We will draw a new trap card. And we're going to see the spike pit needs magic to activate. It can go in a large or a small, well I think that means all zones because it has a corridor too. I think that one means all areas, and it affects any villager doing 2 damage. And yes, that does mean all rooms and corridors can have a spike pit. We will pass the first player coin from the Leshi and it comes back to the Revenant. And day will turn into night, and we have a very target rich environment, hoping to really rack up the XP in this next turn. We're ready to begin our night with the Revenant, who is here in this hallway. And it may not be a bad idea to actually activate the troll, because if we get lucky he may take out a bunch of peasants for us. I'll have to look it up because I can't remember if peasants or villagers killed by the troll go towards the loss of village morale or not. Worry about that in a moment. Let's go ahead on with the Revenant. The Revenant does have a ranged symbol in reserve, so we'll remove one of these dice. And we have a ranged, a melee, a magic, a defense, and a retaliate. I'm in a zone with a peasant right now, and we have this knight melee symbol that we have to use anyway, so let's go ahead and use it and take this peasant out, dropping the morale down to 32 and gaining the Revenant 2 experience. The Revenant is back at full health, no more wounds, so I'm going to go for a level up instead of activating the troll. I'm going to use my ranged attack die and my reserve ranged attack. Fire 2 attacks into the chapel, taking out 2 peasants, lowering the morale 2 more, down to 30. We're over halfway there. The Revenant already has 2 experience. Those 2 kills would gain him 4, so he's going to be at 6, and that's enough to level up. One of his abilities, he has the returned, where the Castle Heart only suffers 1 damage when he resurrects. We could level up the returned, and the Castle Heart suffers no damage when he resurrects. We could have him be cannon fodder almost at that point. Death and Decay, take 1 damage and deal 2 damage to your zone. Living Bomb, your zone suffers damage equal to half the damage tokens on your dashboard, rounded up, and you are slain. Well, I don't want to mess with either of those, hurting myself or killing myself, until I get this, because then I can do it over and over again with almost no consequence. So we will level up the returned. So now we can die without harming the Castle Heart when we come back, which is absolutely great. With the Revenant getting that power, I don't think I even need to worry about healing the Revenant at any point. So I can just throw him headlong into combat. I have a retaliate, a defense, and a magic left. This is going to change up the way I play the Revenant. I'm going to put the retaliation into defense, and then I'm going to use both of these to move. 2 movement. He's going to move into the castle heart. And let me make a little bit of room here because I'm going to come into that corridor with that active retaliation in defense. That's everything for the Revenant. We'll now move over to the Glystig, who is here in the corridor between 2 groups of peasants. She has nothing in reserve. 2 melee, an activation, 2 retaliation, and a magic. We're going to use that melee attack to lure some peasants to their doom. I could move these 5 or these 4 or even those 2, but that's pointless. I'm actually going to move this group of 4 here. I changed my mind. I'm going to use this magic symbol to purchase the spike pit, and I'm going to place it in the corridor that I'm in. Here's our spike pit mini, and we'll place that here in the corridor. Now I'm going to lure them to their doom, moving these 4 peasants 1 closer to me, and then slaying half of them, so 2 of them will die, lowering the morale 2 more, down to 28. Gaining the Glystig 4 experience, plus the 2 she has, will take her up to 6. And we can either level up Lured to Their Doom, move all peasants or hunters in target zone, 1 zone towards you, and slay half of all peasants or hunters, moved rounded down. Or we can get Led Astray, move 1 peasant in every zone, 1 zone towards a villager spawn point. I think I'm going to take that because with as many as we have now in the castle, we might have to start pushing some back. The Glystig has unlocked all of her powers. She has 2 more though that she can level up. We'll go ahead and do her villager activation. And this one way over here is still 4 away and is the furthest. This room is also 4 away, but there's no more villagers in it. And we activate weakest first, so a peasant will activate and move forward. The Glystig will use a melee attack, taking out a peasant, dropping the morale to 27, gaining her 2 experience. That's why I didn't want the trap to take care of both of them, because I wanted the 2 experience to avoid wounds in the daytime. And we'll convert one of these retaliation to a defense, and then end her turn, taking us over to the Succubus. The Succubus has a ranged die in reserve, so we'll remove 1 die before rolling. 2 melee, another ranged, a magic, and a retaliation. We want to prevent these peasants from moving into here and triggering that mimic, because it won't affect them and it'll be a waste. I will use both of my ranged attacks to take out 2 peasants, dropping the morale down to 25, gaining her 4 experience. She only needs 1 more to level something up. She is in the castle heart, so before we move her to that corridor, we'll spend 1 magic to remove her wound, spend 1 melee attack to move, and we'll spend the other when we get to the corridor. She'll move into the corridor, use that melee attack to take out that remaining peasant, dropping the morale again down to 24, gaining her 2 more experience, putting her at the level of 5, so she'll have 1 remaining. We could level up her seduction. Any villager activations you resolve may instead activate villagers within range, so we could pull ones closer in instead of further away. We could gain embrace, remove 1 damage or status effect token from your or another monster's dashboard. Infatuation. Peasants will not attack you and are not counted when deciding whether or not you are hindered. And hindered means if there are too many villagers in a zone, you cannot leave it. They keep you pinned there. And that's if there are villagers equal to or greater than the current health you have. You're hindered and can't leave. But I'm going to go with embrace. I like the idea of being able to remove damage or status effects. And we'll go ahead and add her retaliation to her defense. And lastly, we'll move on to the Leshi, who is right here in this corridor. next to the troll. The Leshi has nothing in reserve, so he's going to roll all 6 dice. 2 ranged, 2 defense, melee, and magic. I'm going to use his magic to activate growth and remove 1 damage or status effect token from mine or another monster's board. I'm going to take a damage token off of me. I'm not worried about silence right now. I don't reserve many with the Leshi anyway. I do have 2 ranged attacks available, and I'll use both of them to attack and take out 2 peasants, dropping morale down to 22. Gaining the Leshi 4 experience. He already had 2, so that would be 6. We could upgrade Thorns. Any defense used by you in defense also deals 1 damage to the attacker. Wrath of the Forest. Your first ranged attack can target any zone. That might be really useful for going after these town heroes. Or we could upgrade Growth. Has no activation. And then we can remove 1 damage or status effect token from mine or another monster's dashboard. I chose to go with Wrath of the Forest, so I can use a ranged attack. As long as I have a magic, I can use a ranged attack in any zone. I do have a couple of defense and a melee attack. I will move 1, and when I move into that chapel, I'm going to attack the peasant. The Leshi will move, attack the peasant, dropping the morale. We're at 21, gain 2 experience, and then I'm going to move again, leaving that zone with the troll and jumping back into the corridor. The Leshi has used up all of his dice. We'll now move into the village event, advance the village event wheel by 4, and that'll get us to 18 and then pass it back up, and we're back at 0, and the event wheel will just keep going around again, and the event will trigger again at 2. This time we have Troll. Well, the troll's already here. Spawn the troll in the closest corridor to the castle heart. The troll is already on the board, and to me spawning means it's coming from off the board, so I don't think that card will have any effect. I don't think the troll would magically teleport to one of these corridors. Let me look at the rulebook real quick and see if there's a mention of it. I don't see any mention in the rulebook of a troll card coming up when the troll is already in play. And if I'm going to go off the word itself, spawn, he's already spawned and on the board, so I believe we would ignore it. That's another question I can ask to get a clarification on, but I'm going to go with the troll is already on the board, so that card has no effect. Now we are going to activate all of our villagers, starting with the closest. There's none here. Step out 1 more. We have 2 in the graveyard. 2 peasants that have no ranged attack, so they will move forward. And now we move out 3 zones. We have 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. They all contain peasants, so the order is not important. These peasants have no target, so they will move 1 zone. This peasant does have a target. That peasant will do 1 damage to the Glystig, taking her up to 3 wounds. Unfortunately for that villager, we have a retaliation in defense, which means that 1 damage will take that villager out, lowering morale 1 down to 20, and gaining the Glystig 2 more experience. Now she has 4. These peasants have no target, so they will move into the zone with the troll. And our final zone with villagers in it that have not activated. First we start with the peasants who have no target, so they will move forward 1 zone. We now have our 2 town heroes, the Portal Mage and Gravedigger, to activate. Again, our Portal Mage is going to move 2 zones. Can't be stunned, burned, or have movement affected. And the Gravedigger is going to move 1 zone, and he is the one that only takes 1 damage per round. The Portal Mage will move 2 zones and join these peasants here with the troll, and the Gravedigger will move 1 zone. And that will be the activation of all the villagers, which means now we get to see what the troll is going to do. This would be a great time for a magic or activation symbol. Nope, that is the melee symbol. So we're going to do 3 damage to each monster and move 1 closer to the castle heart. The troll ignores everybody there and moves into the corridor with the Leshi. Traps would now trigger, but we cleared out this corridor before it activated, so that Spike Pit does not trigger and will stay there, and the same with the Mimic Chest. We're hoping the troll doesn't come into the castle heart before that Mimic gets a chance to trigger against the town hero, because as soon as a troll enters a zone, the trap is triggered. It's time for us to spawn more villagers, starting with the yellow. And we're going to get another town hero +1, so that'll be 2 town heroes. Joining us is the Wind Dancer. Death Rattle. When the Wind Dancer is slain, each monster suffers 3 damage. This damage cannot be prevented. Wow. It doesn't say in the zone or anything, that's just every monster. 5 health, can move 4 zones, does 3 damage, and has a range of 0 to 1. And joining the Wind Dancer, we have the Bounty Hunter. Deadeye. Attack damage is divided evenly amongst all targets within range. 4 health, can move 2, does 4 damage, and has a range of 0 to 2. And is the cursed type. Here is our Wind Dancer, and she is a demon type town hero. She's hunting the Succubus. And here is our Bounty Hunter, and she is going after the Glystig. They both are spawned. We'll come over here to our blue spawn point. And we're going to have some peasants join us. 4 + 1 for 5. Our 5 peasants have spawned. We need to spawn the red spawn point there also. We're going to get some hunters. There's going to be 4 of them. Joining those peasants, we got 4 demon hunters. Our 4 demon hunters have joined the peasants. Seems like they're really out for the Succubus here. We have a town hero and hunter showing up. And finally, at our last spawn, more peasants. 4 + 1 for 5. We got a lot of villagers in the castle now. We still have not run out of peasant minis. I believe I have 6 remaining, and plenty of hunter minis. We'll move into the cleanup phase, and the Succubus and the Revenant had defensive tokens that we will remove. None of the traps triggered, so they'll stay in place. We will draw a new trap card, and it's the Portal. It can be purchased with magic. Move all villagers 1 zone in any direction. It can go into a corridor or small room and affects everyone. We'll pass the first player coin from the Revenant to the Glystig, and we will turn night into day and prepare for our next round.